Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Midday Live on TV3 with me, AC Benewa Otu. To the headlines now. An average of 100,000 new cases of obstetric fistula cases are recorded annually in the sub-region. Former President John Ejekum Kufuor wants government to adopt a comprehensive policy to attract more private investors for economic transformation. On the foreign front, thousands of the Zimbabweans march across the country at the expected fall of President Robert Mugabe. Also, these and many more coming up in the next 1 hour. This is Midday Live. Stay with us. To our very first story now, and an average of 100,000 new cases of obstetric fistula cases are recorded annually in the sub-region. Stakeholders in health want African government to commit more resources to maternal and child care to improve health outcomes.
1 in 30 African women risk dying during childbirth, while thousands more suffer from the damaging physical and mental side effects of childbirth. The campaign on accelerated reduction on maternal mortality was launched in 2009 by the African Union to complement global, regional and national efforts in improving maternal, newborn and child health care. At a commemorative ceremony in Accra, the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo, called for a holistic approach in tackling maternal mortality.
We know that the likelihood that a woman will die during pregnancy is directly related to the number of times she is pregnant. We also know that about 40% of pregnant girls and women will experience complications during their term of pregnancy.
Sector Minister Kwekwa Jumandria expressed concern about the emerging trend of medicalizing female genital mutilation in the sub-region. Other speakers called on stakeholders to step up national interventions to end maternal mortality by 2030.
Still in the health sector, keeping of medical records of patients at the Princess Mary Louis Hospital in Accra has gone from bad to worse. I visited the hospital and reports that health professionals struggle to keep records of patients and retrieve folders of patients on time. The hospital is appealing for support to move from manual to a computerized system. The Princess Mary Louis Hospital, popularly called Children's Hospital, attends to over 200 patients daily. With these huge numbers, it's important for such a facility to have a proper computerized medical records department. This would make retrieval of folders easily and improve healthcare. But that is not the situation here at the Children's Hospital. The medical records library room now has all its shelves full. Folders are arranged on tables and on floors, making the place congested. I've been here for 2 minutes now and I am sweating all over. The place is hot, it's stuffy. And this is one of the records department here at the Children's Hospital here in Accra. And this is what the situation is like. I'm stuck in between 2 shelves with folders all over, and we have some even in front. And so when a patient comes in, you need to take a card from the OPD, and then the records man comes in here, sort out to look for exactly where a patient's folder is. And so I am told that some people or some patients have about 2 to 3 folders, because when you come here, looking at the nature of this place, they need to do a new folder because it is difficult to sort out to look for a patient's folder. Mohammed Ismaila is a biostat assistant and says retrieving a folder is the most challenging task he has to go through daily.
Since the system is not being computerized, sometimes when you bring the card for retrieving of the folder, you see the distance from the records, our office there to this place. We have to retrieve the folder to send it to where the patient is. You see how it's been arranged. Sometimes you have to be roaming and just to find where that particular folder is to retrieve it.
A public health advisor at a hospital, Benson Owusu, noted the poor nature of keeping medical records of patients is making it difficult for health professionals to track the history of the patients.
Now, in cases where the patients come and then we can't find the folders, you have to do a different one for them. What is going to happen is that we don't get access to the past medical history. That means that the doctor must start all over again, and sometimes the doctor doesn't really get to know what has already been done for the patient.
Health Information Officer Kester Opon expressed worry that with the advancement of technology, the hospital still relied on the manual way of medical record keeping, adding that the computerization of the records department was key.
In terms of our quality data, this is very, very important, because if you don't have your data well in place and you do things manually, there are a lot of errors and lapses in acquiring your data. In terms of health information reporting, I think if we get the computers here, it's going to talk a lot about our reporting and our research works as a facility.
Acting medical head of Princess Mary Louis Hospital, Dr. Isaac Aban, appealed for computers. The Children's Hospital serves a large number of children in the country, and a proper system of keeping the medical history of patients must be given the needed attention. Right now, I have in studio Benson Owusu. He is a public health advisor and also a nurse at the Princess Mary Louis Hospital, also known as the Children's Hospital here in Accra. Good afternoon, Benson.
Good
Thanks
afternoon.
for joining us.
Thank you very much.
How critical is the situation? These are children, and medical records is really important.
All right, thank you very much. So it's a major problem at the Children's Hospital, especially in the case that we have a lot of children coming there with various problems, and what actually helps is that we have to use their past records, especially those who have been there already, to actually assist us in providing the best of care to them. But this is the case that most of them come and then we don't know where their folders are because of how the folders are arranged, where they are kept. It's very difficult retrieving them. So sometimes somebody might have come with an ailment that we really need a proper follow-up. You go and you don't find the folders. Some of them get lost, you can't find them. And it's a major problem in that we are not able to follow up with the kind of care that we have to do for the person. And secondly, when it comes to research purpose, you know, diseases affecting children, let me just bring in kwashiorkor, or malnutrition, which is one of the areas that we are specialized in at the Children's Hospital, that you want to do a medical research in this area and you can't find the people, you can't get the folders to actually assess, help with the information that you need.
Is it that you are looking at a particular child, or you want to do it in its entirety? So I'm thinking that you could just pick any of the folders and then you can collect them. You know,
it depends on what you are doing. If you are doing a research in the area of malnutrition, that means that you have to get all the folders of the children that reported with this condition. But this is the case, you are not getting it. And it makes data collection, they're very, very difficult.
Quite hectic for health personnel there.
Exactly. But if we have a system where we have what we call health information system, which is a computerized way, where it's able to capture the data, store it, and disseminate it even among the health professionals, it becomes very easy to actually get the data. It reduces the patient waiting time at the hospital. Look at the case where a patient has reported, let's say, convulsion, which really needs urgent attention. Now, the patient has reported, we are looking for folder, we are not getting it. You get it? So even sometimes it's the delay even from the records till the time the patient is brought to the emergency or the OPD becomes a major problem.
Then you have to do a different folder.
Exactly, and then they are always fighting the nurses. The patients are always fighting the nurses. You know, I came like an hour ago, I'm still here, you know, and sometimes it creates a lot of problems.
What is the way forward? I know you are trying to look at computerizing, you know, computerization. How have you gone? How far has the hospital gone with that?
Right now, we have been able to put up certain strategies that we are looking forward to implementing. Right now, what we need are computers. We need computers and people that are ready to really train the nurses. And trust me, if we are able to move from the folder system to the health information system, patients will not have to go and queue at the records. Everything is computerized. So it's moved from here. By the time you get to the OPD, your information is already with the nurses. By the time you are called to see the doctor, all your information is with the doctor. The doctor will just tell you, go to the pharmacy. By the time you get there, the drugs have already been dispensed for you to collect. So it reduces the patient waiting time, and then it makes works more effective than being in the using the old system of folders.
So in effect, what is the hospital looking out for? Probably support?
Yes, we need support. We need support in the form of computers, logistics that we use in the implementation of this new system technology that we want to move to. We really need NGOs, we need companies to come on board if they can assist us with routers, for internet connectivity, because here we will need a very strong internet connection to be able to get the process moving. We need computers and other logistics that will really help us.
All right, thank you. But before you go, you mentioned that so when somebody comes in there and you can't locate the folder, you need to do a new one. Do you do that charging the parents?
Yes, the patient would have to pay. So the patient's relative or mother would have to pay, because we are doing a new folder for you. And aside the waiting time and all the things that I've talked about, it's also put a financial burden on the parents, especially if they are not been enrolled on the national health insurance. So it's really creating problem for us.
But the thing also is that that is not a fault of the parents. It is the hospitals.
As much as it's not the
so charging them again for a folder that you have not kept.
I get you. As much as it's not the fault of the relative or the mother, the folders are also being produced, isn't it, at a cost? And one thing about it, that is the consultation fee. If you don't have national health insurance at our place, as we issue a new folder for you, that is also the cost for the consultation fee, if the person is not enrolled on the national health insurance.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for talking to us. I think this is a critical issue, especially when it has to do with children, getting a folder, to check exactly or track, their medical history. It is really...
says that the children are so dear to us as doctors and nurses.
They are so dear to us as well. Thanks so much.
Come on and assist us.
All right. I have been speaking with Benson Owusu, and he is a public health advisor and also a nurse at the Princess Mary Louis Hospital, also known as the Children's Hospital here in Accra, and they need support to get some computers for their records department. This is still Midday Live. Let's move on to other stories. And the president of the Ghana Journalists Association has vowed to ensure working conditions of journalists are improved under his presidency. Speaking at the inauguration of a newly elected GJA executives, Afriel Moni stated the association will use its status as a union to ensure journalists are paid realistic.
A survey conducted by the Trades Union Congress indicates that many of the country's journalists receive salaries below the national minimum wage. The GJA's fight against poor working conditions and indecent salaries of journalists resulted in its acquisition of a unionized certificate, which will enable the association to bargain for better working conditions from employers. At the inauguration of newly elected GJA executives, the president of the association said his administration will ensure working conditions of journalists are improved.
It is sad to note that many media workers are paid below the equilibrium wage. In a worst-case scenario, some journalists are not paid at all. In the face of all this, the point can hardly be articulated that unionization imposes a huge responsibility on us to meet at all costs the industrial and professional needs of journalists in Ghana. We shall not flinch from achieving this twin objective.
Minister of Information Mustafa Hamid said the GJA should strive to move beyond unionization.
A journalist sent me a text about how she is paid 300 cedis a month in her media house. And she says for 3 months, the salary has not been paid. I believe that that is a story that resonates around many media houses in our country. People are paid 500 cedis, 400 cedis, etc., etc.
The chairman of the National Media Commission, Nana Kwesi Jan Appington, congratulated members of the association for a successful election and called for unity of purpose to ensure the objectives of the association are realized.
Having been through that kind of bruising elections, we need to make unity a purpose of our organization.
Meanwhile, the GJA Awards Committee, led by Dr. Doris Date, was inaugurated.
Dr. Yadate, you want to say something?
To the education sector now, and the Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, says government has started rolling out policies to bring relief to the private universities. Government has meanwhile waived a 25% corporate tax on private universities to enable the sector thrive.
Public universities for many years have been unable to admit many qualified students due to lack of infrastructure. Private universities within the last decade filled the void to educate many students. There is, however, a misconception that private universities produce inferior students because they admit students with low grades. This, according to the Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, has hindered the ability of private universities to provide several courses, especially in the sciences. Speaking at the Data Link Institute graduation ceremony, Professor Kwesi Yankah believed the 25% corporate tax waiver on private universities will increase the student intake.
What is ultimately needed is a holistic agenda to change the negative perception of private institutions in Ghana. Government is acutely aware of the several obstacles confronting private institutes and universities like you are, and has started rolling out policies to bring relief to the private sector in education.
The executive chairman of Data Link Institute, Ernest Ansah, suggested the National Accreditation Board should be decentralized into zones and be made autonomous to enable it to discharge its duties effectively.
President Akufo-Addo says access to education is the only way the world can foster a sense of cohesion and solidarity amongst displaced persons, especially those of school-going age. Addressing the 2017 World Innovation Summit for Education in Doha, Qatar, the president noted that his help will create an enable environment to spur them on to lead more purposeful and dignified lives.
According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, there are currently 65.6 million forcibly displaced persons around the world. Out of this figure, 22.5 million are described as refugees. Refugees are 5 times more likely to be out of school than the global average. Only 50% of refugee children have access to primary education, compared with the global average of more than 90%. President Akufo-Addo, who co-chairs the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Goals Advocates Group of eminent personalities, noted opportunities must be given to refugees to build their capacity to fulfill their dreams.
The spectre of tens and millions of young refugees growing up without the needed skills to create a meaningful life for themselves is a dangerous one.
He was not happy seeing African youth cross the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean Sea to seek better life in Europe. He attributed this to the structure of majority of African economies.
Therefore drives the determination to seek a much better standard of living out of Africa thereby fueling the refugee crisis and the numerous counts of illegal migrations.
President Akufo-Addo told the gathering Ghana, under his administration, has placed a premium in education, leading to the introduction of the free SHS policy.
All of this is being done because we want to throw open the doors of opportunity and hope to our young people and help build a new African civilization governed by the rule of law, respect for individual liberties and human rights, and the principles of democratic accountability, which will provide the basis to the new Africa of prosperity and dignity, no longer dependent on aid or charity.
The 2017 World Innovation Summit for Education was on the theme Asset Over Burden, Education for Refugee Youth.
Well, let's now focus on issues happening in Zimbabwe, and thousands of Zimbabweans flooded the streets of Harare on Saturday, waving national flags and singing and dancing in an outpouring of elation at the expected fall of President Robert Mugabe. The rally is supported by the army and members of the ruling ZANU-PF party. War veterans who, until last year, were loyal to the president also says Mr. Mugabe should quit. Mugabe, 93, had been under house arrest since the army took over on Wednesday, but on Friday, he made his first public appearance. The military made its move after a power struggle over the successor for Mr. Mugabe, who has held power for 37 years. He sacked his vice president last week, apparently to pave way for his wife, Grace Mugabe, who is 4 decades younger than him, to take over the presidency. And right now, we have Professor Kojo Gavua. He's a Dean, School of Arts, University of Ghana, and also an international relations analyst, joining us via Skype to look at happenings in Zimbabwe. Good afternoon, Professor, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Well, so what do you make of happenings or events in Zimbabwe now?
Well, what is happening in Zimbabwe, it's a reflection of a long period of uncertainty among Zimbabweans, with particular reference to the economy of the country. It would appear that the president, His Excellency Robert Mugabe, is clinging onto power. However, the time is not yet up for political elections in Zimbabwe. The military has intervened, apparently because of the sacking of the vice president. There seems to be some power struggle within the party itself, but this is among a group of people who fought for Zimbabwe's independence, and things are yet to unfold clearly. The army says it's not a coup d'etat. We have agitation among the citizenry of Zimbabwe, but the dust is still not yet settled. So we have to remain calm.
Well, so now SADC and AU have not officially called the army takeover over a coup, but we were asking what signal does this, send? Because we have also long-standing precedents on the continent. For example, we have Kabila, who is refusing to quit.
Well, the Kabila situation may be different from that of Zimbabwe. We have to take each situation as it unfolds. In Zimbabwe, we still have President Mugabe in power. There will be time for political elections. If he decides to run, that is another case. If he says he's stepping down, that will be another case altogether. For now, it appears that the military has taken over, and the whole of Africa now detests military takeovers across the continent. So it will be hypocritical for us to start celebrating because the military has taken over, it appears to be taking over in Zimbabwe. President Mugabe was out yesterday in a school, in a university, as planned. The military has not prevented him from doing so. Let us see how things unfold. I would say that we should not be gullible to news we receive and then conclude. We have to be patient enough, but we have to stand strongly against military intervention, since we are all pursuing the goal of democratic dispensation in our various countries.
Well, so today thousands of Zimbabweans took to the streets, jubilating. Do you foresee things changing for the better if even Mugabe leaves the scene?
Whatever happens in Zimbabwe will be a step ahead in the country's development.
Okay.
But let's be mindful of the fact that even if Mugabe goes, it's an individual going. It may not be a change in the regime which replaced the regime led by Ian Smith and co. It will still be ZANU-PF in power. Unless there is a political election and ZANU-PF loses the election, then we would say that there's a radical shift from the political agenda of Zimbabwe. But for now, it's still ZANU-PF calling the shots in Zimbabwe. So it may be an individual, an African hero, Mugabe, leaving the scene, even if it's reluctantly, but his regime continues.
Thank you very much, Professor Gavua, for talking to us. We are so grateful to you. I have been speaking with Professor Gavua. He is the Dean, School of Arts, University of Ghana, and also an international relations expert. This is still Midday Live. Stay with us. We have more news coming up. To some more local stories, and former President John Ejekunkufo wants government to adopt a comprehensive policy to attract more private investors for economic transformation. He said this will create more jobs for the unemployed youth in the country.
Government says its priority is to build the most business-friendly and people-friendly economy in Africa. This is expected to create jobs and bring prosperity to all Ghanaians. The former president, John Ejekunkufo, believes that the economy can rapidly bounce back with a positive economic outlook for the country. He emphasized the need for government to adopt a comprehensive policy to attract more private investors for economic transformation.
Policy should be to attract entrepreneurship that can invest in these sectors. Whilst we attract the domestic investors, we should know that the world is one big market now, and we may also talk of partnerships. But I believe that if all the partnerships should try to have local content. When I talk of local content, I'm not just talking of employment. I'm talking of equity holders and partnerships that would bring together know-how, capital, markets to generate.
Former President Kufuor hailed the government for taking bold decisions to create a conducive environment for private businesses to thrive. The Deputy Minister of Communications, George Anda, says government will continue to crack down on corrupt practices in the business environment.
One of the key pillars of digitizing the economy is the provision of a comprehensive national identification scheme. Without a proper biometric identification system for our nationals and foreigners, it will be difficult to provide efficient services for our people. The National ID card will assist law enforcement agencies to provide adequate security for our citizens.
And the executive chairman of the Strategic Security System International Limited said the private sector is the engine of growth for the economy and called on government to continue creating an enabling environment for it to flourish.
11 power purchase agreements with a combined capacity of 2,880 megawatts of power are to be terminated. 7 others are to be deferred. The Minister of Energy, Boakye Jarko, says the government stands to make significant savings, if more than $7 billion over the 13-year period.
Pursuant to the review exercise, the government stands to make significant savings from the deferred and or termination of the reviewed power purchase agreements. The estimated costs for termination is $402.39 million US, compared to the average annual capacity cost of $586 million each year, or a cumulative of $7.6 billion US from 2018 to 2030. Mr. Speaker, this yields an estimated savings of $7.217 billion US over a 13-year period.
A breather here. Stay with us. We'll be coming up with sports. Let's do international news now. And the African Union has called on Libyan authorities to investigate slave market of black Africans operating in the conflict-torn nation following the release of shocking images following the sale of young men. The demand followed the release of CNN footage of a live auction in Libya, where black youths were presented to North African buyers or as potential farmhands and sold for as little as $400. Guinean President Alpha Condé, who is also chairman of the African Union, demanded an inquiry and prosecutions relating to what he termed as despicable trade from another era. U.S. President Donald Trump says he is putting on hold a decision to allow imports of big game trophies until he can review all conservation acts. Trump tweeted Friday that he will review the issue with Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. Said the policy has been under study for years. The abrupt change in policy follows an announcement Thursday by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which said it will allow the importation of body parts from elephants shot for sports in Zimbabwe and Zambia. And Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri has arrived in France for talks on a crisis sparked by his resignation. He resigned unexpectedly 2 weeks ago during a visit to Riyadh, but his resignation has not been accepted. Mr. Hariri denied widespread allegations that he was held in Saudi Arabia against his will, tweeting while traveling on his flight that they were a lie. Away from international news, let's do entertainment now. And who will win Ghana's Most Beautiful 2017? Well, we shall all get to know on Sunday as the show rounds up at the Accra International Conference Center. But who are fans rooting for? Owusu has more.
The Accra International Conference Center will host the grand finale, but the big question is, who wins the crown? That is a multi-billion cedi question. Who wins the crown, the cash, the car, and the bragging right? The last time we checked, Yaba was still the reigning queen. Nana has the onerous task of retaining the crown for the Western region. But will the best come from the Western region this time round? The Eastern region last won the competition in 2010. The region's 2010 rep, Ama, won it 7 years ago. But picking up the mantle this time round is Sewa. Can she repeat history? Well, so when GMB started, the Central region was the first region to win. AC won it again for the region in 2015. The region is ably represented by Baba in the 2017 competition. Can she make her region proud once more? Time and space will confirm that. But also in the mix is Northern Region Zainab. Technically, the region has not won the crown before. Can Zainab set record? Who are Ghanaians rooting for?
Sewa.
Sewa, I don't know. Sewa win.
Oh, that me penny character. The real Sikasa, the real Sienadin.
Ghana's most beautiful?
Now, why not person winning? Because
okay, my name is Zura from the Northern region, and I would like Zainab to win.
The province say one mumu na hoke kano edimu. Epa
chanka baba wini anka pepa. If it's all yadi, or yadi pa. The casa musute.
Your friend me Jane. Me pese baba wini. If he say baba or yadi pa or sat bro for pa. And some pese o wini.
Well, the latest local drama series in town, Ya Baby's Holiday, premieres on TV3 on Sunday, November 19. The drama series features sensational actress Belinda Oku, a.k.a. Adjo Smart, Peter Edusei, and comedian Hogan. Wondering why you should watch Ya Baby's Holiday? Adjo Smart has got their reasons.
You're looking fine. What's up, pretty? I want to give you a ride.
Excuse me?
I mean, you know, you're too fine to be standing under the sun. So I was thinking I just want to give you a ride. You know, city of Accra is in my hands. I run Accra. You know, Accra is with me. You know what I'm trying to say?
Hey! Just say you're getting won't grow into be flexing. And a dazzling, a gorgeous number of more cases.
What's the tree?
I'm coming to teach you and can.
That's right. But I try to tell us, ain't Ya Baby, you know, what should we be looking forward to? What is it going to talk about? What is it going to teach us? Who are you in Ya Baby?
Ya Baby.
Me a lawyer. Me say me a nyama bebre wom. Me a nyama bebre wom.
Okay, ain't Ya Baby, no date na me mention Ya Baby Sunday.
What's it date na we Ya Baby?
Date na mention.
Ya Baby, we Ya Baby afutuo wom.
Okay.
Adisua wom. Nyama bebre wom. Wow, ubesre no na ya tofo na usua bibi sanity
na pacho time ben na Ya Baby be show on Sunday
onyame ya adoma 19 Sunday 6:30
yeah. About 6:30 be I'll be on funny TV station
be on funny TV station and to her
okay
one fun to her one makes something big
bagana for afio nti me ni JP say Sunday we Ya Baby be show
oh Charlie who show Ya Baby Ya Baby is very lovely marvelous
hey I don't know that just a break because it's marvelous
like
marvelous
like cherishing wow it's something sweet
hey okay
something special Ya Baby laughing sensible
and on this note
I'm ready to cut Jesus.
And on this note, in fact, on the Ya Baby's Holidays note, we say join us tomorrow 6:30 here at TV3 as we premiere Ya Baby's Holiday. You don't want to miss it. I won't miss it either. Thanks for joining us here on Media Live. My name is AC Benewa Otu. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.